fight against corruption. The former National Petroleum Authority boss Mustafa Hamid is out on bail after pleading not guilty to charges of extortion and money laundering. His co-accused stay in custody, unable to meet their bail conditions. We break down what happened in court earlier today. Stay with us. Also, the Defense Minister, Dr. Edward Omaneboama, has revealed that more Ghana Armed Forces ammunition remains unaccounted for. Is this a security red flag? Well, we hear from the security analyst and the Executive Secretary of the National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons. Stay with us. Dr. Adam Bona joins us tonight. Also, we bring you a sneak peek and key expectations ahead of the 2025 budget presentation. That's a mid-year budget review by the Finance Minister tomorrow, Dr. Kasiala Tuforcing. And what should Ghanaians really look out for? We'll have a conversation tonight. Plus, the Auditor General's report is presenting us with a conversation on how much we're losing as a state and as a people as a result of the financial irregularities in the public sector. What should be done to change the narrative of always, this report comes out, we lament about it, Public Accounts Committee will sit on it, not much is recovered, the cycle continues. That's the conversation tonight. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
Former National Petroleum Authority Chief Executive Officer Dr. Mustafa Abdul Hamid has met his bail conditions in an extortion and money laundering case involving over 280 million cedis. He and 9 others are accused of illegally collecting funds from petroleum transporters and oil marketing firms. While Abdul Hamid is out on bail, the others remain in custody after failing to meet their conditions. All have pleaded not guilty. And Abdul Hamid denies the charges, with his lawyers accusing the special prosecutor of exaggerating the facts, have also come to light. Another theft of ammunition has been uncovered within the armed forces, raising serious concerns about national security. Speaking to the media, the Minister for Defense, Dr. Omaneboama, stated that while investigations into the 2024 missing ammunition are still ongoing, more disturbing cases of theft from previous years have also come to light.
I spoke about the 2024 transfer of ammunition from the Ghana Armed Forces to the then National Security without due consultation and authorization, which the present National Security Coordinator is seeing to that investigation. Just when I thought that was being addressed, we have uncovered another one. And in that case, theft of ammunition.
Security has been tightened at Asawase F line following the brazen shooting and killing of a local chief. The incident has sparked tensions, but authorities are urging calm, promising swift action to bring the perpetrators to justice. The tragedy unfolded when 2 armed men on a motorbike ambushed Chief Azembe outside his home. Eyewitnesses say one attacker, armed with an AK-47, fired multiple shots at the Kadi divisional area chief before escaping. With tensions rising, the Asukori Mampong Municipal Chief Executive has called for restraint.
I will continue to urge calm and ask that they allow the security to finish the investigations and be able to unravel the circumstances surrounding this barbaric act.
100 excavators brought into the country has been impounded at the Tema ports as part of efforts to curb the illegal use of earth-moving equipment in illegal mining. Emmanuel Amakofiboa, taking his turn at the Government Accountability Series, also says government repossessed 9 forest reserves previously taken over by armed guards.
We have drawn a line in the sand, and I believe the president is very focused on that. We have drawn a line in the sand, and we will fight against irresponsible, reckless mining activities that endanger our very lives. Let me also assure the good people of Ghana that we are steadfast, we are committed, and focused on winning this fight of our lifetime.
The ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament, Dr. Nana Ayew-Afriyie, has indicated that certain aspects of the newly passed Ghana Medical Trust Fund Bill will compete with the services of the National Health Insurance Scheme. He has questioned the outsourcing of 20% of funding from the Health Insurance Fund to support the Trust Fund, claiming it is not sustainable.
I would think that coming into government and promising before election is one thing. So if you have promised that you would actually repeal that act establishes the COVID levy and you will scrap that tax off, I would think that there's nothing wrong for government to be bold to say, sorry, we meant this at this time and this is the situation we find ourselves, so that the COVID fund could be earmarked to support this work of the trust.
More than 1,500 Ghanaians have died in road crashes between January and June 2025, with over 7,000 incidents reported nationwide. The National Road Safety Authority is raising alarm over what it describes as a worsening public safety crisis. The authority is now appealing to government to officially declare the road crash situation a national public health emergency.
Traveling on our roads today requires prayer, fasting, as well as a faith, because you may not know whether you could become part of the next statistics. We are calling on government to amend the road traffic regulation LI 2180 to regulate commercial motorcycles and tricycles operations with a clear licensing, training, and safety standards.
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, former National Petroleum Authority boss Mustapha Hamid is out on bail, while his other persons as co-accused stay in custody after they all pleaded not guilty to charges of extortion and money laundering. Now, we'll tell you exactly what happened in court today and how things played out, because it was a very, very important update to how things have played out, especially after last week, that information from the Office of Special Prosecutor. So, as we do know, the former National Petroleum Authority CEO, Mustapha Abdul Hamid, has met the bail conditions imposed on him by the High Court. Now, this was after he and 9 others pleaded not guilty to multiple charges of corruption and corruption-related offenses. Now, the 9 others remain in custody. That's the last time we checked, for failure to meet their bail conditions. But really, we'll just give you a sneak preview of what happened in court today. That's what you're seeing on the screen right now. And it tells you clearly the representation that these persons went into court with earlier today. And then also the fact that the 2 million cedis, we understand, bail condition that was slapped on Mustapha Hamid. We understand he has been able to meet that bail condition. We'll find out exactly what was the condition that was slapped on the others, whom we understand have not been able to meet the bail conditions. And what next for this particular case is a case of specific interest for the Office of Special Prosecutor and then also anti-corruption crusaders who have been watching how things are playing out. Dennis Baberi Wadam Esquire is with me in the studio and monitored the happenings in court earlier today. It's good to have you, Dennis, as always.
Thank you, Alfred.
Good stuff. Now, we do know, it's on record, that Mustafa Hamid, former CEO of NPA, has met the bail conditions.
Yes, that's what the OSP tells us.
Of
but
how
before
much?
we left the courtroom, he and the other accused persons were still there trying to execute the bail bond. So in respect of Mustafa Hamid himself and the second and third accused persons, 3 people. So in that case, I'll just show you. So Mustafa Hamid is here. He's the first accused person.
Right.
The second accused person, Jacob Kwamna Amwa, and then Wendy Newman. So the first, second, and third accused persons, they were given a bail sum of 2 million Ghana cedis each, with 2 sureties, one of which was to be justified with landed property. And Alfred, when you are given a bail condition, one that requires justification and has to do with landed property, usually it's quite a process for you to be able to get it done within a day. So it's quite understandable that some of these people are still in custody. In respect of the other accused persons, for them, there's the same bail sum of 2 million Ghana cedis, except that they have 3 sureties, one of whom is to be justified.
No, but look at these charges: conspiracy to commit extortion, extortion by public officer, using public office for profit. That's some tough nut that the special prosecutor will have to crack. It certainly means that he has something up his sleeves we are not aware of, is it not?
Well, so the special prosecutor, who was present in court himself to have the plea of the accused persons taken, did indicate that for them, evidence will show beyond reasonable doubt that the accused persons have actually committed the offenses for which they've been put before the court. Even though that also was sharply rebutted by counsel for the accused persons, because in their view, what the special prosecutor had indicated that the evidence will show beyond reasonable doubt was not included in the facts that were before the court.
I see.
But the OSP, the special prosecutor, had to come back again to explain that he used that in the sense that, in the course of the trial, they would adduce evidence to prove beyond reasonable doubt that these accused persons are indeed guilty for what they have been accused of. That is to say, he's ready to prosecute and to prove his case in court. But of course, there was also the other issue where, you remember before they even got to the courtroom, the OSP had given them bail, so they were on bail.
Sure.
And that was brought to the attention of the court. The OSP was not opposed to the court giving them bail, except to say that the first, second, and the third accused persons were flight risks. But that again, counsel for the first accused person, that's counsel for Mustafa Abdul Hamid, did not take that lightly, because in his view, that was not accurate, because he says that even when the investigation was ongoing and Dr. Mustafa was on bail, anytime he needed to travel, he sought permission from the OSP.
Right.
And that there was no indication whatsoever that he made any attempt to flee the jurisdiction.
I see.
So he did not see why that information that the OSP offered to the court, that the accused persons, including the first person, was flight risk.
Flight risk.
So that was the information that was put before the court, for which the court was to consider the bail conditions or the bail terms for them. And eventually, those bail terms were given them. Now we are learning first accused person is the only person who has been able to meet the bail conditions as of the close of today. The other 6 people are still in custody. And here you find the 6 other persons. We've looked at the first 3. The 4th person is Albert Ankra. All of them were in court. Isaac Mensah, Bright Bediako Mensah too, Kweku Abuaji Akwa, and the rest are the artificial persons or the companies. And Alfred, it's so important to indicate that due to the high interest in this particular case, the courtroom was full, even to a point that you find people who were interested in the matter not having space in that particular court. And those who are familiar with the court spaces in there, it's the case that the criminal courts usually have relatively bigger spaces. But even with that, it could not contain the number of people who were interested in that particular matter. Most of the people who had come there were people who had come to solidarize with the accused persons, especially the first accused person, who's the former NPA boss. But by and large, their plea was taken. All of them pleaded not guilty to all the charges, and their lawyers say they are ready to have their day in courts. You remember for Mustafa Abdul Hamid, his lawyers had already indicated before they came to court that their client is innocent of all the allegations that have been leveled against him.
Absolutely.
They raised concerns about how the investigation started with the figure involved, 1.3 million. They are now told that what he is standing trial for is in respect of some 280 million Ghana cedis.
True.
And to him specifically, it has to do with some 24 million Ghana cedis. So for them, they are ready to go through the trial and then prove the innocence of their clients.
I see. You referring to the bail conditions.
Yeah.
What were the bail conditions specifically to Mustafa Hamid and the others?
So for
that
him,
Mustafa Hamid has met?
Yes, for him and these two, that is Jacob Kwamna Amwa and Newman Wendy, Wendy Newman, 2 million Ghana cedis, 2 sureties, one of whom is to be justified.
Right.
And in that case, they are looking at landed property. They were also asked to deposit their passports and also visit the investigator once every month. So those were the conditions in respect to the 3 of them. Now for the rest of them, they also have the same bail sum as in the 2 million Ghana cedis, but with 3 sureties, one of whom is to be justified.
I see. So how is this case going to play out in the coming days?
Well,
from what we do now.
So now the case has been adjourned to 26th of August. Parties have been asked to file the relevant documents. In this case, prosecution is required to file all disclosures and then serve same on the defense. They are also supposed to indicate witnesses that they will call if they intend to do so. And also, if they have any alibis to file, they'll have to do so. But then again, the hearing on the 26th is going to be a virtual hearing. And that will be the day that they'll come to now determine the next line of action for the progression of the case. Alfred.
Great detail there. Now, you know what? This is one that it's not just the people who are in the courts who are keenly interested in this, right? And it's just important that you put the matters in context about the public interest nature of this particular issue. And you had the courtroom full to capacity.
It was.
In fact, beyond capacity.
Yes. Even practitioners did not have space in the courtroom. I mean, at certain points in time, security had to come in to make provision for other persons who needed to be in the courtroom. And it was obvious that this was not a regular day in court where you would find maybe few people in certain courts. The that courtroom specifically was filled to capacity.
You see. And we'll see how the coming days will look like.
Precisely so.
Rightly, and we'll follow this every step of the way. Dennis Prepared will continue to be in court and to sit through these court proceedings on specific cases like this, and then also many others that the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General are all pursuing for and on behalf of the Republic of Ghana. But this is Ghana Tonight. Stay with us. We're going into some matters tonight as coming up next, another case of armed forces ammunitions not accounted for. Is this a security red flag? Now, we'll settle for a conversation tonight on this particular issue because there's been another development, quite a concern indeed, to say the least. Now, the new information suggests another unaccounted ammunitions within the armed forces, raising serious concerns about national security. Now, speaking to the media, the Minister in charge of Defense, Dr. Edward Omaniboama, stated that while investigations into the 2024 missing ammunitions are still ongoing, you recall on Monday when Dr. Edward Omaniboama addressed the government accountability series, he indicated that thousands of military-grade ammunitions had gone missing. That was prior to the 2024 elections. But this time around, he's giving some more updates about further missing ammunitions belonging to the Ghana Armed Forces that they cannot find. And more disturbing cases from what we are hearing of theft from previous years have also come to light. Here's the minister earlier today. Take a look.
The 2024 transfer of ammunition from the Ghana Armed Forces to the then National Security without due consultation and authorization, which the present National Security Coordinator is seeing to that investigation. Just when I thought that was being addressed, we have uncovered another one. And in that case, theft of ammunition. And that was even before the 2024 transfer of ammunition from the Ghana Armed Forces to the national security. The ammunition found in the hands of civilians may not just have come from the ingenuity of those civilians securing them, but may have come from complicity of people who are tasked with responsibility. And so the investigations are ongoing, but the general public must know that these thefts have taken place and we are chasing them. We shall chase the perpetrators to whichever hole in which they will be hiding, because the peace and stability of Mother Ghana is far more important than any other individual's interest.
Well, that's a troubling update that the Defense Minister, Dr. Edward Omane-Boamah, gives. And this is coming on the heels of similar revelation by the minister on Monday during the Government Accountability Series, which he gave details of these thousands of military-grade ammunition that have also gone missing prior to the elections. Take a look.
We have kept our nation safe and stable, notwithstanding the irregular transfer of thousands of rounds of military ammunition in 2024 from the Ghana Armed Forces to the National Security Outfit. Ammunitions since not been accounted for. If you go back to the President's State of the Nation address 2025, he hinted at it. This is the next phase. But the reality is that to date, those ammunitions have not been accounted for. How the Ghana Armed Forces could transfer ammunitions to national security that doesn't have a fighting force in 2024 is a question that will definitely have to be answered. The Ghana Armed Forces has passed it on to the National Security Secretariat for the National Security Secretariat to investigate it, since they were the recipients of the ammunition. These legacy debts continue to constrain our ability to invest adequately in critical defense priorities and warfare infrastructure. Alongside this, we are contending with a 17,000 unit accommodation deficit.
Well, that's Dr. Edward Omane-Boamah, and thankfully we want to get a bit more into this troubling development. And what I just played to you are two different situations, or what is played out at the Ghana Armed Forces. One involving thousands of military-grade ammunition gone missing. Today, we're hearing from the Defense Minister that the government has also uncovered a case of ammunition theft within the Ghana Armed Forces, predating the 2024 transfer of thousands of unaccounted for rounds of the National Security Secretariat. Dr. Adam Bona is the Executive Secretary of the National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Dr. Bona, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, Alfred, and your viewers.
Great. Now, this update we're just getting from the Defense Minister has been troubling for you and the mandate of your institution, to say the least, is it not? Getting to know that there's been a case of ammunition theft, stealing within the Ghana Armed Forces, predating the 2024 transfer that he talked about on Monday.
Correct. Very troubling, especially when my institution, the Small Arms and Light Weapons Commission, is the mandated institution to report on firearms and munitions and the rest to various international bodies, including ECOWAS and the ATT and the rest. It is the Small Arms and Light Weapons Commission that reports on matters of arms purchase and all these things, to including, in fact, what the minister highlighted with regards to what looks like, according to the minister, theft. And you know, earlier on in his press briefings, he did allude to the fact that some thousands of rounds have gone missing from the military armory that was being shipped to the national security. Very troubling, if you ask me, because then since the minister's expose, I have received several calls from the sub-region, our colleagues from the sub-region, wanting to know what is going on, and receiving calls also from, across, from Geneva and New York and the rest, wanting to know what seems to be going on. And we find ourselves in a very troubled sub-region. The entire ECOWAS, if I have to put it that way, there is chaos. You can talk about Burkina Faso, you can talk about Mali, you can talk about, terrorists almost surrounding Ghana. If you go to some parts of Nigeria, very unstable. And so to have thousands of rounds of ammunition getting missing, and also another news that we have some thefts. And these are not candies. These are not toffees. These are things that before they are procured per the ECOWAS Convention on Arms and Ammunitions and the rest, before Ghana purchases these items, we must, there is something that we have signed on to that requires us to let our neighbors know, the 15 ECOWAS countries, know especially what we are doing. And so mine is that this is quite troubling, and from the small arms, and in fact, not just the small arms, for probably the rest of us, including the sub-region, if you ask me, very troubling, because then ammunitions are consumables.
Indeed.
They are consumables. And so if you are talking about thousands of them, I'm sure yesterday or so, within the week, we have heard about a Kusasi chief, condolences to who has been shot in Asawase. The police has come under a lot of gunfire from armed robbers. And they go out there chasing armed robbers, and they are not sure what the armed robbers are firing at them. Could this be part of the ammo that's left the military facility?
But the question, the answer to that question lies directly within your mandate, is it not? As the Small Arms and Light Weapons Commission, isn't it?
Well, we are supposed to be part of it. Our role is to collaborate with other security agencies and try to find out what has actually taken place, who did what, because then there is a supply chain. And it's a very respected, rehearsed, complex process. If you have to move, even if you have to purchase, it's a very complex. And so once it comes in and these were shipped into or sent into a military armory, someone definitely would have allowed these ammunitions to leave the armory of the Ghana Armed Forces into, into someone's hands, and someone would have allowed the theft. And so mine is that I'm sure it is early days yet, but investigations are continuing, and from the small arms point of view, we are part of the investigations. But like I said, our mandate also includes reporting to the Arms Trade Treaty, reporting to ECOWAS, and reporting to other regional bodies, making sure that these things are transparent. And so very worrying, if you ask me. And those who are involved definitely would have some questions to answer. The military hierarchy then, the CDS then, COAS especially, COAS then, all of these people would have answers to provide. They have to give some answers, if you ask me, because these are lethal ammunition we are talking about. Yeah. And so definitely there has to be some, because these are serious matters, if you ask me, from the small arms point of view, but also for our integration purposes. The ECOWAS is in turmoil, and so those who pretended over this theft definitely would have to answer, and they must help us to find where these weapons are. If they are in country, let's get them If they've left the country, let's find out where they are, Alfred.
You went ahead of me to give pointers of who is supposed to be answering the questions in this investigation in all these two instances, because this is not ammunition that got missing, let's say in someone's home. I'm talking about the Ghana Armed Forces, Armory. I mean,
right.
that's a big deal, right? Because the military has high standards of protocol, okay? So in the first instance that the defense minister references these thousands of military-grade ammunition that were moved prior to the 2024 elections, there certainly should have been some protocol in place. He says protocol was disregarded, it is irregular, it is unusual, it shouldn't have happened. Who made it happen? Who should be answering questions? I mean,
Alfred, I'm a public officer.
Yes.
But you remember some time ago in your studio, I told Ghanaians that the military then was headless. Maybe people didn't understand me, but probably I was speaking in parables. And so mine is that a lot has happened. A lot must be investigated. Those who are culpable must be brought to book and punished. And we must say them the way they are. Mine is that, you see, the military is one of the most respected organizations if you travel across the world, the Ghana Armed Forces. And so you expect that because sometimes the police interfaces with citizens all the time, sometimes you could have slips here and there, but to have some of these things, and some of us, I mean, it's not everything I can put out because, like I said, I'm a public officer. But I did allude, and I'm not running away from that. People ask me, what do I mean when I said the military then was headless? Because then a lot of things that those of us who work within the intelligence sector, we picked up. I mean, you ask yourself a lot of questions, but I'm sure that these things are unraveling. They are coming up, and more would come up. It's unfortunate that these things happened. They are being reported. Those who are culpable must be punished. Mine is that those who are culpable, they know themselves. They must be punished. Our investigations are ongoing. And I mean, my institution is part of, the bodies that should see to this. And my institution, if I tell you that we mark all security agencies' weapons, we mark all of them. And as we speak, the marking is ongoing. We finished with one of the wings of the military. I don't want to mention the name because of security purposes. And so we interface with the military. We work with them. And so mine is, these things shouldn't be happening for our security and safety purposes. At the moment, like I said, police officers are getting shot.
Yeah.
People needlessly are getting shot. Police officers go out there to confront robbers, and they don't know what type of bullets these robbers are firing. And if you have a father or a son or a relation in the police service, I will tell you that sometimes when you meet them and they talk to you, I mean, yes, they are trained, but the fact that you are trained doesn't mean that you might not be caught at the wrong place. And someone just got shot, the Kusasi chief, and you know what is going on in Boku, unfortunately. And these are some of the things that if you ask me, shouldn't be happening. So those involved, I'm sure that, the books are there. Those involved definitely would have answers to give to investigators, if you ask me.
In 2 minutes, because now you reference the fact that you were an intelligence officer, you had all this information prior to the elections, you made certain statements. Now you are a public officer charged with the responsibility of tracking and clamping down the proliferation of small arms. So what measures are you also going to be putting in place to ensure that these ammunitions, if they have indeed found their way into the hands of citizens or private persons, you together with the others can track and retrieve them?
Well, we work in collaboration with the police, the military themselves, defense intelligence, the national security, immigration. We work with all of them. My men are the border, they work as part of border security. They work, at the ports, and we are everywhere. And so at the moment, we are still gathering information. It's early days yet. I wouldn't want to put everything we are doing out there, because then that has the potency to jeopardize investigations that are ongoing. But like I said, we have an important role to play. And today, I must confess, the arms bill, one of the things we've been fighting for, my minister is pushing it more than we are doing, because then it looks like, because there is lack of proper regulations when it comes to these things. If regulations were put in place properly, some of these things wouldn't have happened. But we don't have regulation. But today, our arms bill is undergoing review. Tomorrow, we are continuing. So the technical aspects were at the commission today. Tomorrow, they are going to be there. The deputy interior minister, because the interior minister was busy, sat in to listen to some of the deliberations. We are hoping that the bill can be passed before this parliament rises, or else maybe when they rise and they come back, I'm sure the bill would have gone through cabinet and will be passed. But these matters we are discussing are not, are not simple matters. They are difficult matters from where I sit. But we need to say that Ghana is still peaceful. If you have information, this is education. Or putting an alert. If you have if you have information about citizens listening, if you have information about someone who is holding some of this ammunitions that we are talking about, I think it will be good for our own safety and security to report either to the small arms or to the police, national security, or even to the military themselves. Now we have the CDS William, my big brother William there, who is put a lot of structures in place. So we have a different set of military now, if you ask me.
And I do appreciate your time. We're going to be knocking on your doors a lot more in the coming days. And I thank you so much for making the time to join us. Appreciate you. Dr. Adam Bona is the Executive Secretary of the Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons. And this is Ghana Tonight. And let's get into other matters of financial irregularities. Essentially, we talk about the state, you and I, losing money as a result of financial irregularities in the public sector. That's coming up next. The 2024 Auditor General's report reveals that an overwhelming 15.8 billion cedis, let that sink in, 15.8 billion cedis, we understand, which represents some 86.5% of all public financial irregularities originated from institutions under the Energy Ministry, right? From what we do know from the Auditor General's report, the total irregularities across the public boards and statutory bodies stood at 18.4 billion. And follow me closely. This is it. We found out in the Auditor General's report. This is it. Okay? Now, this is the total of the financial irregularities as a result of procurement breaches, diversion of public funds into private pockets, and then also some of these public institutions entering into loan agreements, deals that do not follow the required procedure, and someone essentially benefiting in the process. All of this, the Auditor General says they uncovered some 18.41 billion cedis, all as a result of irregularities. And this is an increase of 109% of the 2023 figure. So in 2023, the Auditor General captured in the report that 8.79 billion was lost or was misappropriated and essentially had to be accounted for in the public sector. Fast forward to 2024, 109%, 18.41 billion. And when we tracked, we realized that in every election year, we see a similar story. Now, out of this 18.41 billion cedis, that's the total irregularities in the public sector as a result of this, procurement breaches, procurement corruption, and so on. 15.8 billion, that's 86% of that, is as a result of financial irregularities and procurement breaches of institutions under the energy ministry in the energy sector. And guess what? ECG comes up first. In 2023, ECG underdeclared over 2.95 billion in revenue. Instead of disclosing the actual collection of 11.59 billion, the company reported just 8.64 billion, and this is it. So there was a shortfall of 2,953,414,599 cedis and 54 pesos. This is it. That under declaration by ECG. That's not the only one. The ECG also failed to disburse the collected revenue to state-owned enterprises and independent power producers under the cash waterfall mechanism, amounting to 1.29 billion. Remember that we've been talking about debt-owed IPPs for a while. Now, the tax obligations as well, based on the Auditor General's report, from what we captured from it, ECG also defaulted on its tax obligations, withholding but failing to remit 70.9 million cedis in taxes to the Ghana Revenue Authority. That's in the Auditor General's report. That's not the only one. ECG unpaid the invoices to Bui Power Authority. Essentially, they didn't give Bui Power Authority the monies that were due them from ECG, $729 million. Since 2020, this debt has been mounting over time. Now, as if that's not enough, another agency under the energy ministry, Bui Power Authority, they also went in for a loan and they defaulted on the loan. The penalty on the loan, $846,785. Guess what? GMPC as well. A number of things they did. They entered into a loan arrangement on behalf of the Ministry of Finance with no formal documentation. There's no documentation on the loan. This is absurd. You can think about it, but it's happening. Failed to secure title deeds for a $6.3 million property it acquired in Tema. That's according to the Auditor General. And then they continued to publish oil and gas reserves reports without external validation. Bear in mind that all of this, these institutions would have to appear before the Public Accounts Committee to respond to queries from the Public Accounts Committee. And then if there has to be reimbursements and penalties, then that would play out as we see on television every year. Adam Senano is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Senano, we're getting into this cycle of people just getting emotional about the figures that are captured in the Auditor General's report when it comes to financial irregularities, procurement breaches, and so on. I mean, why is this happening, really, on a yearly basis, as we're seeing now?
And I think that your question in itself underscores what has gone amiss. Ideally, when these are reported during the Public Accounts Committee sittings, the mechanisms we have in place to deal with them ought to be very robust, to the extent that sanctions are swift, persons found culpable are projected, it's known publicly, and the kind of swiftness and public knowledge of the extent and severity of the sanction serves as a deterrent. To the extent that we keep talking, and after weeks and months and years, these people are not found culpable, they are not sanctioned, there is no evidence that monies have been retrieved, you will find that people think that you can continue with impunity. So I think this just is a reflection of the work we have not done. And if you want to have a different report in 2026, it means that in this year, we need to make that effort to ensure that these issues that have come up are dealt with swiftly, the sanctions are clear, they must be severe enough to serve as a deterrent, and then we'll get some traction. We definitely need to pass the Conduct of Public Officers Bill that codifies sanctions, makes it clear on what should be expected. And perhaps, like we've been saying, we need specialized corruption courts, special courts where these issues are pursued daily, not you come this week and they say come back after a month. And we can learn from other jurisdictions in Africa. As I've been saying, Kenya has 13 specialized courts just for anti-corruption, where they daily, the same cases run within 6 months, they are done and they move on. That's the way you deal with corruption and send the right message.
Well, then again, you can understand the public uproar when there's the public, that's the Auditor General's report is published on a yearly basis, and then we see all of these infractions and the monies involved, some of which are not retrieved over time, and then we have to go through this cycle every year. The law is there when it comes to surcharge and then also retrievals. And we're in an area where this administration has promised Operation Recover or Loot as well. So what's the issue? Is it about the effective application of the law or the lack of the will to retrieve these monies because of collusion in all of this?
I think that's, the surcharge is part of it. The former Auditor General, Dr. Go, started picking up the pieces by applying it, strenuously. And then when he was sent on extended leave and then kicked out, there seemed to be no action on these surcharges. It looked like towards the tail end, it picked up again. I think that the law itself in terms of surcharging is clear. I think that the actions to make sure we retrieve and then we prosecute those who are not able to pay back, etc. I think we are just too slow on that. I think we are also not publicizing it sufficiently to serve as a deterrent. And so we all need to think through the mechanisms again. How can we make this more public, hold people more accountable? How do we make sure that the speed with which these cases are dealt with is much more sooner than later? These are things we need to apply our minds to and see how we can improve the current system if we want to see change.
And my producer is just earlier when we were looking through the report, he's just indicated that, look, it appears we're not angry enough, because every year we talk about billions being lost in this Auditor General's report, and we go through the cycle on a yearly basis, and not much is done when it comes to the report of how much has been retrieved. You agree with that sentiment?
Angry enough. We really are not angry enough. We went and borrowed 3 billion from the IMF, whereas to pay back in 3 years. In those 3 years, according to the data we have, would have lost 9 billion. Now, doesn't it make sense to have dealt with the corruption, which would have saved us that? We could even have saved ourselves, let's say, half of that, which would be about 4.5 billion. You don't have to go and borrow any money again. So I think the thinking through what is really happening in the corruption, in relation to corruption, and how much we could retrieve to save ourselves, the burden of going to borrow and then have to pay interest and premium on that. We obviously are not angry enough. Otherwise, we should be telling government, please, we want to see what you're doing about procurement. If you say 86% of it is in one sector, then all you need to do is to make sure you set enough eyes and monitoring systems on that sector. Can you imagine if we cut down that 86%, down 10% by next year, just by being rigorous in every purchase procurement process in the energy sector? How much would that save government? How much and even what has been lost? The robustness with which we set after retrieving will be very critical. So there are smart, low-hanging things we can be doing to make sure that we turn the tide round.
And rightly so, Mr. Sanano. And think about it, the energy sector accounting for the 86% of this monies we're talking about. And this same energy sector has a debt of over $3 billion hanging around its neck. And so we have been levied to help government pay for the debt of this same energy sector, accounting for 86% of the irregularities captured in the Auditor General's report. It cannot get more annoying and worrying than this, right? Mr. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. He's the executive director and also the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Stay with us. We're back shortly after this quick break. We'll build up to the budget. That's a mid-year budget review presentation tomorrow by the Finance Minister.
Why are more and more professionals choosing flamingo paint?
As an interior decorator, I aim for that beautiful, elegant look. Flamingo paint has great hiding ability to cover and transform old walls easily with just one coat.
Impressive. For me, as a professional painter, I love flamingo paint because it is small paints that paint huge area, meaning more profit for me. Great value for money.
As an architect, flamingo paint, with its well-researched and
welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. Now, Ghana's actual public debt for the year 2024 that stood at 737.17 billion, according to the latest Auditor General's report. We have details of it we're going to put on the screen right now. This is significantly lower than the 876.8 billion reported in the government's consolidated financial statement. Now, the difference in here is staggering, okay, of a statement of some 138.9 billion. What could have accounted for this? Professor Peter Korte is the director at the Institute for Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISEM, at the University of Ghana, Legon. Prof, appreciate your time. You've seen this detail, and clearly this definitely demands some answers to the question of what could have accounted for this discrepancy of 38.9 and over billion cedis in terms of the figures of our public debt. What could have accounted for this?
So it's good. I mean, we've witnessed a sustained appreciation of the cedi. So that's basically sets the tone. It sets the tone for businesses to predict, to be able to forecast prices, be able to forecast how much forex they need to import and also engage in other businesses. But having said that, I think if the structure of the economy doesn't change and we continue to rely solely on rain-fed agriculture, if we continue to export raw materials, we don't add much value, then of course we'll not be able to expand our production, we'll not be able to gain much from the appreciation. But also note that appreciation actually hurts exporters. But when your currency appreciates, your goods become more. Well, it doesn't surprise me too much because we have not relied so much on digitalization. We have not digitalized our records. We tend to do a lot of paperwork, a lot of paper trail. But if all this information were done, for instance, the Ministry of Finance, every time you pick their budget statement, they talk about GIFMIS system, where all MMDAs, ministries, etc., would key in their financial transactions on the GIFMIS system. However, we see a lot of off-budget spending, a lot of activities going on outside the GIFMIS system. You pick several budget statements. This keeps repeating. And even the IMF program document that we have signed, GIFMIS, this keeps coming. So not until we are able to use this integrated system where all agencies record transactions real time, then we can have accurate data. If not, all these discrepancies will continue to emerge.
And this is one as well that's going to be topical during our coverage of the mid-year budget review presentation tomorrow by the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasiela Atto, forcing the coverage, the pre-mid-year budget review presentation discussion starts from 7 a.m. on New Day on TV3 and also on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7 and across all the media journal platforms. We're going to be very heavy in Parliament. We're going to be present in Parliament as well. We have a studio that's going to be set up in Parliament, interact with all the people who are going to come there, and as well as for us here in the studio. So stay with us. We have a 360 coverage of the media budget review presentation tomorrow. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. My name is Alfred. Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.